Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So in this video we are going to be reviewing the second season of the Charmed Reboot. Now I'm really enjoying the Charmed Reboot. It's a really nice new take on the whole Charmed franchise and still has all of the core ingredients that makes Charmed, but it's just a really different new take, especially with the second season, as there's no Demon of the Week, there's no Book of Shadows, no Elders, everyone thinking that they're dead, stripped back powers, humans testing on magical creatures, and a full-out demon and witch war. Now, whilst there are similarities to the 8th season of the original Charmed run, the second series of the Charmed Reboot does things differently in terms of it takes the core elements of the Charmed universe and just extends it and serializes it across the entire second season, so that it is very different from a structural and from a stylistic point of view, but it still has the same old charm that you'd expect, no pun intended. So whilst I wasn't sure what to make of the storyline at first for the second season of the Charmed Reboot, because I thought, this is so different to the typical formula, what we can expect from a Charmed series, it really quickly gathered up pace and just packed an almighty punch in the second season. And like I said, it was a real nice change to the somewhat predictable formula. It's a real shame that they weren't able to conclude the second season as they would have liked to because of the whole pandemic, but they hopefully will pick up all of these storylines when the third season drops, and I believe it's going to drop at the start of next year. So hopefully we'll see the conclusion of all the cliffhanger storylines that they left the second season with. So let's go through the main storylines one by one. So the first one is the Demon War / Demon Overlord storyline. So the second season started off in what would seem like a massive demon and witch war, and it was already seeming like the demons are winning and having a bit of a wipeout of all of the witches. So, the storyline seemed like very grand, very high stakes, but then it very quickly kind of got shelved for the Demon Overlord storyline and became a bit of a sibling rivalry between Parker and Abigail, and kind of seeing them two in terms of seeing who's going to be the new Overlord for the demons. And yeah, it just became a bit of a sibling rivalry and bitter hatred between these two characters, because both of them had the legendary Caine heritage. Now I thought that an equivalent to Alistair Caine would kind of swoop in there and kind of take over the title of Demon Overlord from both Abigail and Parker, because kind of the new Overlord might see them as kind of being a bit too childish for this position. And I guess that kind of happened with Godric when he kind of took the title away from them. So, I guess that kind of happened, but I always thought that a bigger kind of Demon Overlord figure would kind of come in and kind of re-establish themselves as the new kind of Demon Overlord that's going to kind of wipe out all of the witches. So maybe that's going to happen towards the end of the second season / the start of the third season. So the next big storyline was the human testing storyline, which really demonstrated how twisted humans can be. It kind of had a little bit of a touch of Manifest Season 1 in terms of all of the passenger testing, and the Gifted Season 1 as well in terms of all of the mutant testing. So, it was a lot about how can you test on these magical creatures and kind of extract their powers and use them for your own personal gain. So really, really twisted storyline. And it also revealed that Julian and his family are the masterminds behind all of this. So it'd be really interesting to see how that gets concluded. And it also linked in with the Darklighter in the first episode and kind of throughout the series as well, in terms of being the collector of all of these magical creatures for this group of crazy individuals. So the next big storyline is all about safe space. Here the Charmed ones are in hiding or witness protection, as mysterious Elder Celeste put it. And here the Charmed ones are able to travel anywhere around the world. They have a new book of elders and a new set of rules. The next big storyline was all to do with the Darklighter, and here Harry really became a mainstay player within the whole storyline. So that was really, really nice to see, and kind of exploring his dark side, the love square now with Harry, Macy, Abigail and Jimmy the Darklighter. And Harry also had to hold down his position as being the White Lighter for the team as well. So this was a really interesting new storyline for the show. The next big storyline was to do with Mel and Maggie's dad entering the scene, who they think has passed away, and how he's able to kind of join in the group, kind of see some human relationships, kind of see a bit of sibling rivalry, and a bit of family backstory. We then have all of the other relationships, like I said, the love square between Harry, Jimmy, Macy and Abigail. We also have the Maggie, Jordan and Parker triangle. We have Mel's casual relationship, so all the relationships are really interesting. And then the final big storyline was all to do with the new powers that the Charmed ones are acquiring. So all in all, these storylines for the second season of the Charmed reboot were really, really interesting. A lot more varied, very different in terms of not having a demon of the week. They had the odd demon in there, but overall the storyline for the second season of the Charmed reboot is absolutely brilliant. So the cast of the Charmed reboot are really, really cool. It's really nice to kind of see a lot more diversity within the whole Charmed world, and I feel like the core characters really hold the show really, really nicely. It was nice as well, like I said before, in terms of not having a Demon of the Week storyline each episode, and instead having storylines kind of being serialized across the whole show, across the whole season, so that you're really invested in terms of seeing how everything develops throughout the season. But yeah, the cast are really, really cool. I wasn't too keen on the Seattle supporting cast in the early stages. The Jordan, Katrina characters I thought were pretty weak, but the later on new additions were a lot better, namely Julian and Abigail. So let's go through the core characters one by one. So Maggie Vera, I think, is a really, really cool character. I feel like they made her a lot more like her Phoebe counterpart this season in terms of having really strong relationships with her and Parker, which was similar to Phoebe and Cole. Like I said before, I felt like Jordan being added into the mix was a bit of a weak addition, but that being said, let's put that to the side. And from a powers point of view, she was kind of experiencing a lot of the premonition powers that Phoebe had, and a new power whereby she can control the emotions of other people. So it'll be really interesting to see how she uses this power going forward, as it was introduced towards the end of the second season. And also, she became a strong martial artist like Phoebe was as well, and it's really interesting to see her fatherly relationship like the Phoebe character as well. So a lot of mirroring between Maggie and Phoebe. Next, let's review Macy. And it was really interesting to see the fact that she wants to strip out her demon powers. This was such a big part of the first season in terms of having a half witch and a half demon character. Abigail is really showing that this is such a powerful and lethal combination, but then Macy chooses to strip her demon powers. It was quite prevalent in the beginning, but later on she decides to strip it so that she can truly become a charmed one and they can re-establish the power of three. So let's see if that was the right decision for her. The other big part of the Macy character this season, like I said before, was to do with the love square. So with the dark lighter, Harry's white lighter, and the Abigail character in there as well. But then they also added the Julian character in there as well. So that was a really interesting new mix, a new dynamic, a new relationship. So really interesting to see how that one gets concluded. We then have Mel, and it's really nice to kind of see her being a lot more similar to the Prue Piper characters in terms of being really on the Elder's book, in terms of really understanding the whole Wiccan witch side of everything, becoming a bar girl, and seeing how she was able to re-establish her relationship with her dad, who she really hated at the start of the season. So that was a really nice kind of human side of her character. We then have Harry, and like I said before, it was really nice to kind of see Harry at the forefront with the dark lighter storyline, the white lighter storyline, the Macy-Abigail relationship. We also got to have a reappearance from the Marisol character. It would have been nice to kind of see a bit more. Hopefully we get to see a bit more from this character later on too. I thought Abigail and Parker were brilliant additions. I love their little rivalry and how you can't really trust them. So they were really nice additions. So, the cast, relatively speaking, is quite small. And it was really good actually, because you really got great character development from all of the cast. So it's really nice overall from a character point of view this season. From a visuals point of view, this season generally is a lot more darker than the first season and more darker than the original series as well. It works really, really well for the tone of this show, as it's a lot more high stakes. They're kind of on the run. It's a lot less vibrant, a lot less preppy, a lot less happy. So, it works really, really well for what this season is all about. And from a travel point of view, in Safe Space, they can go all over the world. So you get to go to really nice locations. It's not just stuck in one dingy little basement or a little attic. So it was really nice to kind of see the breadth of different areas, and the darker tone worked really, really well for this season. It really showed as well how you just cannot trust anyone that the Charmed ones kind of come across. You can't trust Abigail, you can't trust Parker, you can't trust Julian, and I feel like the visuals really helped amp up that kind of intrigue and the whole kind of mysteriousness throughout this season. So the visuals are very strong for the show. In terms of comparisons, the second season of the Charmed Reboot is purposefully trying to be very different to anything that you've seen before in the whole Charmed world. I really liked the first season of the Charmed Reboot. It was really nice to kind of see how they're re-establishing this world, but still trying to make it similar to what you've seen before in terms of the power of three, in terms of having elders, in terms of having Book of Shadows, Demons of the Week, all of that kind of stuff. I thought the characters were really, really interesting in the first season. I thought the Caine family from the demon world were really interesting in terms of having Alistair Caine and his kind of two sons, and having Parker kind of being half demon, half human, and kind of really being torn between these two worlds. And then from the elder side, having Charity in there, having her sister Fiona, having the rogue witches, not knowing whether or not you can trust all of these different groups. It's a really interesting first season, and then the second season is just trying to be super different, both tonally, all of the different characters, all of the different situations that these guys are finding themselves in. It still does have a couple of nods back to the old world, but you know, it's purposely trying to be very, very different. I did appreciate the fact that they were trying to do a few nods in this season back in the day as well, because they were showing that, you know, all of the previous Charmed ones have always had a sister passing away. So this was a nice nod to what happened with Prue in the original Charmed world, and showing the whole multiverse in the first season. So, you know, they are respecting the original source material. I did kind of miss there being a lot fewer demons and not having Demons of the Week, so hopefully this is something that they can maybe rebalance in the next season. But I did love the much darker tone and kind of having more serialized storylines across the whole season. So overall, I feel like the second season of the Charmed Reboot was a success. In terms of my predictions for the third season of the Charmed Reboot, I feel like the Charmed ones are going to defeat Julian and his family, and there will hopefully be an end to the whole magical world testing storyline. I feel like there will be a new demon overlord, loads more demons coming into the mix, maybe new teams coming into the mix as well. Maybe the avatars or the cleaners will be introduced. I feel like the elders will maybe make a bit of a return. I feel like the Charmed ones need a bit of a superiority figure to kind of continue all of the different seasons throughout. I feel like Abigail, Parker, and Julian maybe even as well will stick around for a lot longer. And maybe even Jimmy the Darklighter might stay for a bit longer as well. I feel like the Charmed ones will begin training up the next generation. Maybe a new family member gets introduced, maybe a cousin or something like that. You know, I feel like the third season of the Charmed Reboot has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see what direction they'll go down, as I'm sure it'll be incredibly awesome. Overall, I really enjoyed the second season of the Charmed Reboot. It was really nice to kind of see them do new things, change up the formula a little bit, and experiment and kind of really change up how they are communicating the different storylines, putting them into brand new situations, introducing new characters, bringing back old characters. A couple of hit and misses in terms of with some of the characters being really boring at the start of the second season. But you know, overall, I just feel like it was a really fun ride from start to finish, and they really set themselves up for a brilliant third season. It's a shame that they weren't able to conclude the second season properly with how they had their vision for the second season being concluded, but obviously out of their control because of the pandemic. But you know, for all of the reasons above, I feel like I'm going to give the second season of the Charmed Reboot a solid 7 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.